go. In the room. We're in the room.
We're back in the room. Back in the room.
We are. Yes.
As this is a guest episode, let's crack straight on. So let's go to the place where the distractions are landmarks and the detours are the main roads. Welcome to ADHDville. Oh yeah.
Intro music. Jenny from the block. Don't look the rocks I've got. Jenny from the block. Don't look the rocks that I've got. Oh no, not at all. Don't look at them. No, please. I'm pretending to be genuine. Yes.
It's you now, Paul.
Yes, that's me. Hello, I'm Paul Thompson. I was diagnosed with the combined ADH and another D about 16 months ago.
Crazy.
Over to
I'm
you,
Martin West, and I was diagnosed with combined ADHD poo-poo platter in 2013.
So we're just two mates who, by coincidence or not, we're starting well. After 39 years of friendship, discovered that we're co-ADHDers. Who would have thought it? Now, It's really important to say this is an entertainment podcast, Martin, about adult ADHD and does not substitute for individualized advice from qualified health professionals. It never gets easier to say that. So don't take any advice from him.
Or him.
We're just here as a kind of all-inclusive ADHD park bench with room for everyone, including your doppelgangers, your alter egos, your buddy doubles, your chaperones, and even your best buddies. Yes, those as well. Oh, still here. Congratulations. You've already won yourselves a loyalty badge. Okay, so grab your jetpacks, your pedalos, your space hoppers, or any other wow, my God, I haven't got my teeth in today. Any other transportation methods, and let us take you to ADHDville, an imaginary town that we've created in our minds, where we like to explore different parts of the A, the D, the H, and the D again. Wow, that was hard work.
As always, in the pub, the King's Attentive Head, because we aren't mayors anymore, and we've lost our mayor's car, as we were saying earlier. So it's a guest episode. Let's go to the coffee shop, Paul. Let's bundle ourselves into the tractor.
Let's do it. Let's
go.
Let's get on that tractor.
Ooh,
you can tell it's been tuned this week. We must have found some money somewhere in the budget to have our tractor tuned up.
Yeah, well, I did spend half an hour under its hood.
Did you? Oh, okay. Tinkering.
Spark plugs.
Okay.
All right. Okay. All right. I see Jenny Lucas, our guest.
Yeah.
Welcome, Jenny.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome, Jenny.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Well, I'm going to get a round of drinks in at the coffee shop. Can I get anyone anything while we're yeah? I'm going to have a green tea, by the way.
I'd love a small, skinny decaf hazelnut mocha, if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, okay.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay. Thompson?
I'm going to go for straight up espresso. Espresso.
Nice. Cool. Yep. All right. Well, I think we can just, while we're getting those drinks in, we can talk about what we're going to talk about today, because we have like a subject. So, Jenny, I was on one of your TikTok posts a while ago, and you were talking about Sonder. And I
love the word Sonder.
Right. So I think we can kind of we could start off by going, what is Sonder?
What is Sonder? Right.
Indeed, what is Sonder? Indeed. It is a word that I learned from an Irish friend. I don't think it's an Irish word. A good few years ago now. And it means, I'm going to read the definition that I've got in front of me, the profound feeling of realising that everyone, including strangers passing in the street, has a life as complex as one's own, which they are constantly living, despite one's personal lack of awareness of it. And you are playing a minor role in someone else's major story.
Right.
Okay.
So that's a bit like, for me, so when my wife and I occasionally go to a restaurant, maybe, and we'll look over a couple over there, and then we'll start kind of going, oh, what does he do? What does he do? And we kind of like build out their lives, and we kind of go, oh yeah, like they are heroes in their own story.
Exactly.
And I'm just like
even just for one day.
I'm right. Just for one day. And I'm just a sort of a walk-in character in there, sort of
You're an extra.
Exactly.
Just a walk-on part.
Yeah.
I find that really fascinating myself when I am, when you sort of, when you catch yourself on awareness of like being alive, you have those moments where you're suddenly like, whoa, I'm actually really here doing this. And that might be if I'm out driving, for example, and you're on the road with all these other people, and I'm like, where are you going? Especially if you're driving like early in the morning or late at night, like where are you people going at this time of day?
Yeah.
And what's going on? And how many of you are like, are you married? Are you siblings? Like, what is your relationship? What's going on in your life? What is your destination? Why are you going there? It's just like endless questions that you can ask about other people's existence. It's fascinating.
I get this when I'm in busy places like an underground station or an airport and stuff. I get this really strong thing, and for years, I mean literally years, I don't mean 3 years, I mean 23 years. No, more than that, 30 years. A sensation like, I don't know any of these people.
Yeah.
What's going, and is the point of this really to like build a sense of building empathy in a sense?
Yeah.
But because when I to put it a little bit into context, I'm not sure if this helps, but I always struggled when I was in my working environments. I always thought that people just like putting up obstructions in front of me, like on purpose, and getting in the way of my objectives because I had no patience. I just wanted to reach my objectives. And I just saw people as getting in the way. And I had very, very little empathy, like thinking, well, what's going on in their lives? What if, right? It's always a good way to start a conversation. What if they're not doing it on purpose, right?
Yeah.
They've just got their shit going on.
Right.
Does that make sense?
That's a great way to look at it. Yeah, it absolutely makes sense. And I think when it comes to that sort of having awareness, when you are present enough in your own life to have the brain space to be able to be empathetic in that way, to even ask the question, what is going on? Because like you say, it can be really easy when you are busy and caught up in your own world, trying to get places, trying to do things, to just be irritated by the humans around us. I have to say I've had plenty of times like that in my own life where I find the other members of the population that I'm interacting with on that day just like more annoying than anything else. But when you start to have more capacity in your brain and your sort of empathetic system, if you like, you're able to take that pause before that irritation kicks in and goes and ask those questions about, not to the person, obviously, that would not be appropriate, probably. No. But like in your own mind, you can almost have a pause and have that ponder for yourself, ponder the Sonder, what is going on for them.
Yeah. Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's interesting when it comes how ADHD and ponder kind of each other, which is like so I think this is actually a good segue that I should have done a little bit earlier. So you are you have ADHD, right? And you're also autistic as well yourself.
That's correct. Right? I have the bonus combo pack of autism and ADHD together. I am an ADHDer.
Right. Oh boy!
I don't know if I won a prize for having both, but it's like makes life interesting.
It's like someone went into a pick and mix and just filled the whole bag. Okay.
I'll have one of everything, please. Thanks very much. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. with extra Haribo.
And like you both, I am also late diagnosed, so I did not know about my autism and ADHD until 2022. So this year it'll be the 3-year anniversary. God, I can't believe it. Since finding that out about myself. And sort of prior to that, it wasn't really on the agenda or the horizon. Was unaware that I had neurodivergence in my world.
Okay. And your mum as well.
Correct.
So
yes.
Did your wee ones? Or was it? I almost attempted a Scottish accent. Oh, please, Paul, don't do that. Your little ones. They kind of like, as often happens with mums and dads, they like the thing that like made parents think,
Yeah.
what if the parents have got ADHD too, or autistic as well?
Very much. It was my eldest daughter who, sort of at the time, pre-COVID times, kind of COVID-y times, was experiencing like tummy aches, quite bad tummy aches, quite a lot of the time.
Oh, okay.
And we had investigated all of that from a physical perspective. There was nothing evident there. She even had her appendix out at one point. And then we sort of started to look more around sort of anxiety and what might be causing that. And we spoke to school, and they just put a few things in place. They sort of treated her like she had a neurodiverse condition, and supported her academically in school with that. And it started to ease those issues for her. So then we sought a diagnosis or an assessment for her. And it turns out that she was autistic ADHD. My youngest daughter is also autistic ADHD. I'm autistic ADHD. And my husband has also then put himself forward for assessment and found out last year that he is ADHD. So we are a full spicy household over here.
Fabulous. Well, I say fabulous. I mean, I say fabulous. Are you? Where are you on the kind of the superpower thing with ADHD? You being, in the fulcrum of an ADHD kind of, wasp nest.
It's a really. I think it depends on what day it is. How I feel about it.
Okay.
For me
Good
personally,
Right.
having both, like being autistic and ADHD. Now that I know what it is and have the language to describe it, I can absolutely see how they balance each other out in my brain. They're like my yin and yang. They kind of keep each other in check some of the time. And I think depending on your circumstances and your setup, whether you're able to use the advantageous parts of it. My husband's very creative, for example. So he has he's the kind of person that could be a CEO that has like brilliant ideas and concepts, and then would have a team of people around him to sort of make all the moving parts happen. He's the ideas guy. Like he's got the vision and he sees all those other things. But like the day-to-day, he then needs other people to support him with that. So if he was in the circumstances where he could let his brain just do that all the time, that would be absolutely be a superpower. But then obviously somebody else has got to be picking up all the pieces of exactly. That's it, I think. It definitely, there's pros and cons for sure, definitely.
Yeah. But it's interesting you say you're developing a language,
absolutely.
Give it a name to start with. Yeah.
And then you learn more about it, and then you start to relate that to your own experience. I'm sure you've probably had the same experiences as that, and you start to have light bulb moments, and you go, oh, that's why that happened, or that's why I felt like that, or whatever. Yeah. And then you can start to sort of, I think there's a pretty universal experience that people have once they find out, especially if they're later diagnosed, that you then like go back through your timeline and go, God, and then like all the bits and pieces sort of start to fit together, whether those are like light bulb moments or like cringe moments or whatever. It sort of all starts to come into focus a little bit better. And then you use that knowledge like in your future interactions.
Yeah. And just generally quite overwhelming.
Massively.
It's
huge.
16 months into it. And I thought when I started out, I think we said it on the podcast, when I started out, I thought, well, I'm 57. I know myself pretty well by now. Actually, I really could have done with some professional help, I think, in hindsight. Just so
Well, it's a
much
huge thing to take on
unravel.
because, well, I mean, you look back through your whole life, through your relationships, through the workplaces that you've been in, the jobs that you've had, and all of that. And there's a whole lot of stuff comes with it. There's like validation and acceptance, I think, that kind of like, oh, wow, this makes sense. I'm so glad I've got an answer sort of thing. But then there's like anger and grief, because you start to think, well, how much different could my life have been if I'd had this information, if I'd had this support, if I'd known this 20 years ago, if, you know what I mean? You think, well, maybe that relationship would have been different, or maybe that workplace would have been different, or maybe, you know, and there's, like we said earlier on, there's lots of what ifs come up and lots of maybes and perhaps and whatever. And there's a real sense of grief that comes with that, because it's knowledge you didn't have before, and that if you'd had previously would have made a huge impact on the course of your life up to this point, for sure.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
basically the quality of life could have been much better, actually, not just like a little bit. Yeah.
Have you found since your diagnosis that aside, now that you have the knowledge and developing the language around it, that your quality of life is getting better now?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, I think, you know, if you are in a relationship, or even if it's like with the people around you, like your friends, like once you've got some language around it and some, you know, your communication is a lot better. So the things that would annoy me, you know, that my wife would do now doesn't annoy me at all, because because she's able, you know, because we have a language, and I now know what she means. So there's a lot less friction in my life, a lot less of that miscommunication.
Yeah,
I've found also, because since my diagnosis, I started teaching in high school, which is like the irony of that is unbelievable, given the amount of problems I had with school. And from nowhere, I had sort of 700 pupils, of which, you know, all kinds. The point being is that it took a while. It took some months. I started to realize that I started to develop a new skill that I'd never had before, which is appreciating neurotypical people without feeling challenged by it, and getting an element of joy from it. Truly joy. Like during the breaks between classes, I used to stand in the corridor and just stand there with a big grin on my face, watching this like life passing by of these like, you know, 800, 900 different souls passing by, and being able to appreciate it for the first time rather than feeling challenged by it.
There you go.
Sonder.
Bringing it back, Paul. You're bringing it back.
I was just thinking that. It's when you're in that environment, in a school environment in particular, and I am an ex-teacher, Paul. We talked about that before, and our shared sort of experience of working with young people, which is, I mean, it truly is. The nature of just working with young people really is an amazing thing. All the other politics around it in schools and all that other stuff gets in the way. But the actual relationships that you can build with these young people and the impact that you can have on their lives as an individual is massive. And I find that fascinating. Again, when you find yourself in a school building, however big that is. I've worked in, you know, schools with over 1,000 children, schools with less than that. Yeah. And if you ever just take a moment to think, you know, that place that you find yourself in, this little microcosm of the world, you know, schools themselves are little versions of the world for those young people.
Totally.
And they all have individual circumstances that they are dealing with at home and their friendships. The staff that are dealing with them all have individual circumstances in their home lives. You know, and I just, that is, I could sit and ponder that all day in terms of, you know, people's upbringings, where their sort of values have come from in terms of their own like family relationships, the relationships they have themselves, the way they parent their own children if they have children, life experiences that they've had, how they bring that into the classroom. It's just unbelievably fascinating for me. Anyway, I was going to say I'm a people person. I don't mean that in the way that people might interpret it. I find people fascinating, and I find the things that people do fascinating. So, that just plays into my love of Sonder, really.
Right. Yeah. Because I was just going to kind of say, yeah. So, if you are listening to this out in there in the world, that kind of like it is good to kind of like reach out and actually be a part of a bigger community.
Yes.
I mean, obviously, there is us, but there's also us on TikTok. There is us on YouTube, but there are lots of other ADHD and ADHD people out there, and actually kind of getting involved in a community, and then sitting there and just learning about everyone else's experiences. In that kind of Sonder, in that Sonder way, where you are not the hero of the story, you're going to allow them to be the hero in their own story. You can just kind of learn so much from each other.
It reminds me, and I think when the astronauts. Bear with me with this. When astronauts, they go out into space and the little ship, and they look back on the world and they see, how tiny the world is in reality. I think some people can either be really, really challenged by that, or the complete opposite and be completely liberated by it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're just one of, I don't know how many of us are there on the planet, 9 billion, something like that.
Right.
And that's kind of liberating to think about. But most people, I suspect, are really challenged by it. So they need to feel like they're unique in some way.
Yeah.
And in fact, actually, if you take that zoom out view and you zoom all the way in, that kind of idea of everyone is like a hero in their own stories, and you're just kind of like a walk-on part. Like just a small interaction with the people around you, like a bit of kindness or a smile or a something, can actually make their day a lot better. And you can feel kind of like a little bit of a helpful part in their lives, right?
Definitely. I see quite a lot of people sort of on this in the social media world who want to be more visible in the social media world, but they're a bit frightened, a bit scared. There's not a lot of judgment out there. Sometimes social media can be an unkind place to be. But I have to say that from my own experience, sort of learning about my neurodivergence, the place that I sought validation for my existence, if you like, more than anywhere else, was social media. And it was people who were able to be brave enough to be honest about their experiences as an ADHD woman first. That was my sort of first thinking, was ADHD. And then as I learned more about autism, like finding out about some of those traits that resonated with me. And that was all through people being able to share their own experience with the world. And so there's something really beautiful about that, just finding that little nugget of, oh, I'm just going to do this, and putting it out there, and somebody else going, oh yeah, you've made me feel really seen. Like, I identify with that. I see that. Like, that is just joy. It's so, and that's a lovely sense of community. And I think online community is so valid, especially for people that are maybe struggling to get out into, in-person community. Online community is so valid.
Right. And you have, speaking of communities, you have your own podcast. You have your own community.
I do.
Right?
That is correct.
It's time to plug the podcast.
That's known in professional terms. It's called a segue, Martin. Well done.
It was.
That's lovely.
I segued for you.
Done.
There's been a couple of those already. It's brilliant.
Yeah. Almost sounding professional.
I do have my own podcast. I started it it was a mad thought that I had last January, where I was like, do you know what? I quite fancy getting into podcasting. I quite like talking. to myself. And so I thought, what better platform than to start a podcast? And it is called Autism, ADHD, and Us 3. And it's predominantly about my journey as an ADHD parent with ADHD children. Now, it's called Us 3 because my husband does not want to feature in the podcast.
Okay.
He does exist. He is part of the family unit. It wouldn't have rhymed quite as well if I'd said Autism, ADHD, and Us 4. But he doesn't really, he doesn't want to be too out there with all his bits and bobs. So he's not going to be like a massive part of it. He's quite happy to let me to do my thing, and both the girls are quite happy as well, because I always check with them if I'm going to be talking about this, would you be happy for me to share? And I always get their like consent before we talk about anything. But it was basically to sort of put something relatable out there for other people who are also in that journey, because there's a lot of SEND parents out in the world, and that can be a very lonely place to be if you are sort of a single parent of SEND children, or even not a single parent. It's a tougher than average road in parenting, and the services that we have available to us, certainly in England where I am, are not great in terms of support for those parents. So I am not a professional service from that perspective, but it's just a bit of community, a bit of relatability, and it's lovely. The podcast is small and growing, but I've had some comments from people who have taken the time to either message or get in touch in some way and just say, wow, I was listening to that episode and that was so relatable, like I felt seen. And that was the whole reason that I'm doing it, really. So a bit like you guys, so that people out there just don't feel so alone in this journey.
Absolutely. No.
Yeah.
I mean that's why Paul and I got involved with this, because when we started it, there wasn't any late diagnosed ADHD podcast for guys. I mean, I know guys who, so what? But I mean, there are still a whole bunch of us. So I kind of felt like there was a little bit of a group of people that kind of needed at least two old guys to kind of go, it's okay, it's okay, it's fine.
You gals, you're so much better at this than we are.
Yeah.
We certainly can be. Yeah, we love a good chat.
Especially of a certain generation. A certain generation.
I know.
It was like, had always struggled to get those words out, of a certain generation.
Certain generation, certain age. But I think it's great what you guys are doing, because you are blazing a trail, to coin a phrase, in terms of having that openness, because you'll know this stat, I'm sure, and I had forgotten it, and I was reminded last week that you couldn't get, certainly in the UK, don't know if this is worldwide, you couldn't be diagnosed with ADHD as an adult until 2008.
That's crazy, right?
So there are so many adults of all ages, and I'm sure that in your parts of the world, you've seen all the kind of ADHD like epidemic, and everyone's getting diagnosed and whatever. Yeah. And because up until not that long ago, you couldn't be diagnosed with it. So there's literally millions of people out there, I imagine, who are ADHD and don't know it or suspect that they are. So there'll be loads of people in your position.
Generally, it's easy to talk about it from a point of view of Martin's in America, you're in the UK, I'm in Italy, but in Uzbekistan, in Croatia, we have no idea. I tell you, for an easy one straight off the bat, Italy's probably 7 or 8 years behind the UK.
Yeah,
it's extraordinary how many people have never heard of ADHD. No idea.
It's mind-blowing.
It's scary. Yeah, it's mind-blowing. And the people that say that it's fashionable, it's not. It's just because there's a almost mathematical equation you could do. It's like they're so underdiagnosed.
Yeah.
It's a completely different thing.
I know, because if someone said to me, just cold, like, how many ADHD people are there in the world? I would look around at me and kind of go, I don't know, 20%, 30%, somewhere around there. I mean, and the actual figures that come back are somewhere like 3 or 5 or somewhere around there, right? Yeah. But to me, in my world, it feels like there's more.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are
I like to play with the idea of what if it's 51%?
Yeah.
You know?
Then we are not divergent at all.
We're not divergent at all. We're actually the majority.
We're the typicals.
Yeah, we are the...
That's a strange thought.
We've become neurobeige all of a sudden.
I know. That's funny.
But it's interesting though, isn't it? When you get your diagnosis and you learn more about it, you develop almost like a kind of neurodivergity-der, and you can start to see in other people traits and things, and you think, I think you might be a little bit spicy. And you know what you were saying there, Martin, about like it feels in your world like, gosh, it feels like there's loads of people, and I think that's we do attract a like kind. In terms of like friends, look at the two of you.
Magnets.
You know, and who would have... I did
Martin's
not say
more
that.
of a magnet than I am. It's much more sticky.
It's that idea that, you know, you do attract like for like. So it will feel like, you know loads of people that could fall onto one of the spectrums.
Well, you taught at school, right, Jenny?
Sure did.
You know, and you looking at my school, just giving another reference point about Italy, no one's talking about it at school. Not the teachers aren't talking about it, the head teachers, no one. And I said to them, well, how many cases of ADHD or autism do you have at school? None, they say, none. Sorry, what? None. This is a school with 1,200 pupils. Oh, we've got no cases. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You must have at least 100, 200 in there.
Exactly. Because you see them, right? You go back to what you say before, Jenny. You develop such a well, you know, a really sensitive radar, and you just like it's like bing bing, like little, you know, like the Google Map pins, you know, like popping up all over in front of you.
Oh, you mean like when you sort of look out at all your kids, you're kind of going, yeah, probably you, definitely you,
yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Well, they come to me because kids are even more sensitive than we are. They come to me. Yeah.
You're sticky.
You're a lighthouse for all the ADHD children in your school.
They stopped me in the corridor. There's 2 girls last week, bless their cotton socks. They stopped me in the corridor last week because they've got a problem with one of their boyfriends who's become a bit of a stalker. And it's right. And I just, this trust they had with me, like telling me their story, it was just incredible. Yeah. You know? And you think, they could probably guess that, you know, Prof Thompson isn't like the other profs, you know. That's what they call me. They call me Prof Thompson.
Prof Thompson, very nice.
Yeah, I'm not actually a real prof because I haven't got a degree, but they call me Prof.
I'm not even that. I'm just like, hey, you. That's what people. That's what I get called. Who are you? I did actually think. Just kind of bringing us back onto the Sonder thing, because I was thinking, you know, this thing about perfectionism, like when you kind of like, you know, everything has to be perfect, right? I don't know. Is this something that you're afflicted with Jenny? Like this perfectionism part?
I can be. I'm not so much anymore because I've become aware of it. And perfectionism is just, well, it's a form of procrastination, and it's it's a protector part of your psyche that wants to keep you safe from something. Failure, obviously, is the big one. And so if things aren't perfect, I won't hand them in, I won't do them, therefore I won't fail. So I don't anymore so much suffer with perfectionism, if you will, because I've learned about what role it plays in my life, and I've come to have some sort of acceptance with, actually, nobody's perfect. No one's really expecting me to be perfect. And what's the worst thing that could happen if this is the best I can do? So I am not so afflicted by that anymore, but I know that many people do struggle with that quite a lot.
Right, because I tend to because I was thinking on this kind of with my Sonder glasses on, I was thinking, right, well, if I'm doing something for someone or whatever, they don't look at me and what I'm doing with anywhere near as critical eye as I do.
No,
and in fact, they care a lot less. So rather than giving 100%, I could still give 60%, and that would still be absolutely fine in their world. They don't. They care about it way less than I do.
Oh, definitely. My youngest daughter actually gave a really good example of that, sort of honing in on yourself. And it's so interesting being the parent of girls in particular, because they sort of have this really self-critical eye of themselves and the way that they present in the world. And so I was walking my youngest to school this morning, and she was wearing like a navy blue hoodie, a navy blue joggies, a navy blue jacket. And she noticed this new pair of joggies she was wearing. She went, "Mummy, these are a different colour of blue to my hoodie. They're like a brighter blue." And she'd noticed the difference in the colour. She went, "It makes my hoodie look black, except when I wear black leggings, it makes my hoodie look blue." And she was really conscious of the different tone and the colour between these two things that she was wearing. And I actually had this conversation with her on the way into school, that kind of, you've really noticed that because you're wearing those clothes and you're really aware of it. I said, just think about how caught up you are in noticing the colours in your own clothes. I said, everybody else in the classroom is going to be that caught up about something to do with them. So they're not going to notice the difference in the blues between your hoodie and your joggies, because they're all caught up with something equally important to them in their own worlds. And I've no idea whether that landed with a 9-year-old. But it's fascinating, when we, especially with things like appearance, when we get so caught up about how do I look in this thing, or how does my face look, or this spot that I've got, or whatever. And most of the time, everybody else is so worried about their thing that they don't notice your thing that you're worried about.
Yeah. Is it possible, do you think, that with ADHD we grow up with subconsciously the idea we've got to be slightly better than everyone else?
Oh yeah, because I think you hold
to make up for this subconscious idea that we're deficient.
Oh, definitely. I think, that there's a statistic that says that by the time, I believe, I'm going to probably butcher this, that by the time children reach 11 years old, they've already heard 20,000 more negative things about themselves than they have their neurotypical peers.
Yeah.
And so it's hardwired into us that we are constantly getting things wrong. Our very existence means that we're probably going to fuck something up and get it wrong. So we are that sort of idea and that drive that we're constantly working harder than everybody else to just appear sort of presentable.
Just keep up.
That's definitely a thing. Yeah, just to keep up. Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. I'm exhausted just talking about it. Blimey.
I know. Yeah, so I like that kind of just looking at other people's lives and just trying to imagine how they look at you. But it can also go the other way, so that actually if you're not great at boundaries, that kind of idea of Sonder, of kind of going into their lives. And it's almost like you tap into your own empathy, and that's cool and great. But it can kind of like, it can also take it out of you as well. It can also kind of like overload you if you get too into other people. and not manage to set your own boundaries. Right.
Definitely.
Yeah, I guess we're so used to it internalizing everything, and then you end up over externalizing.
Yeah.
And empathy is a tool that is has to be really carefully managed. You can't just like flatline, empathize for everyone, because then you'll get really, it's dangerous, right?
It is. It's difficult. I have to say that was one of the main reasons why I didn't think I could be autistic. Talking about stereotypes, was the stereotype that autistic people can't be empathetic, aren't empathetic, struggle to understand other people's circumstances. And I thought, well, that's not me, because I'm hyper empathetic. I can find myself, well, what I imagine to be slipping into the shoes of somebody else's experience and thinking, oh my gosh, what would that feel like if that happened in my life? And you sort of almost feel the emotions for that other person. And that is very draining. You're right, Paul, because you are, it's almost like maladaptive daydreaming. You're like taking on all of these thoughts about something that they're not happening to you. They're not happening in the real world, in your life in that moment. But it's using all the same resources as if it was happening to you in that moment. And it is, it's tough. It is having awareness of that and then having tools to sort of snap you back out of it is really important.
Like overcompensating. And you could be standing there trying to empathize for someone that really couldn't give a damn whether you empathize with them or not, and they might even deserve it, but often not. But developing that tool, I think I developed that tool quite late in life. I think for many years, especially before my diagnosis, I was very much capable of flip-flopping between being very empathetic and having zero flatline empathy.
Yeah.
And not having much control over it. More to the point.
Right.
No, I can agree. I identify with that absolutely. That idea, and you almost sort of think, am I a psychopath? Like, how come I can feel that all these feelings in 1 minute, and then in the next minute be dead inside, cold as stone?
Yes.
And again, I think that it comes down to your own levels of capacity. And I think when you've reached a point of overwhelm, you then lose the ability to empathize because you just don't have the emotional bandwidth for it anymore.
Yeah.
All right. So before we kind of like go off the Sonder thing and the main this main section, I guess, is there anything else that you didn't get to? I just want to kind of make sure that we're not missing anything from you before I crack on with the next thing.
No, I love the concept of, because I find people fascinating, I'd like to say that I'm a people watcher. I think I've heard quite a few people describe themselves as people watchers.
Yes.
And it's a really lovely way to spend some time, is to be in a, it doesn't need to be a busy public space, but just in a space where there are other people, and just imagine, just let your sort of imagination run wild. And it's really lovely to almost feel that sense of being a part of something without actually having to physically interact with it at the time. I think as an ADHDer, I get a lovely sense of sort of almost like socialization from that, because I can sort of be with people but not have to be in the company of people, if you know what I mean. And that, I think that's lovely for me.
That's interesting, right?
Yeah. No, I like that.
I generally gone through life as if I always, even before my diagnosis, I always described myself as being an all or nothing person.
Yeah.
Right. So in essence, it's not like all empathy or no empathy, and actually developing the skill to actually dose it, and be aware of myself dosing it.
Your empathy.
Microdosing, yeah. Where it's needed, where it's not, where it's welcome, where it's very much not welcome at all.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay,
all right.
Interesting.
I know. So I think we can get on to the. Actually, we'll get on to the next bit, which is everyone who comes on, they can set up a shop or a store or a thing or a place in ADHDville. We had Vanessa on last week, and she had a music store. So
Nice.
I should be in. I should be in there a lot.
Me
Nice.
too. In the percussion section, we've also got a vinyl shop. We've got a
theme park from Maddie. Yeah.
Bookshop,
Nice.
secondhand bookshop.
ADHDville is thing out, but what would you like to kind of stake your claim?
I'd love to have had a music shop, actually, now that you say that. But as a former music teacher, so I would love to go and visit the music shop, actually, and the vinyl shop would be amazing. But I would like to have what I'm going to call a self-care centre. So like a sort of, almost like a meditation zone, like a place where people can come and Sonder can come and sort of be with others and have a sort of quiet, safe space to be with other people, but no pressure for interaction. So I would like to have a space like that, please. I don't have a name for it, though.
Oh, that's good. It's like the centre with no name.
It's just like
which
a
is the
place
name
that you know. It's just like a thing. It's over there. You know where it is.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what it's like. In Reading, which is where I'm near, there's a place called the Biscuit Factory. And it's this lovely place. It's got a little cinema inside, but it's got a nice cafe area where they've got different types of like board games. And it attracts quite a lot of neurodivergent people who like to just come in, grab a coffee. There's like sofas, bean bags, and you can just come in and just hang out by yourself, grab a book, get whatever, play some solitaire, or like groups of people come in and they might do a round of D&D, or they might like do some group board games and stuff together, and it's just a really nice, safe space. There's like leaflets for the stuff that's going on locally, events and concerts and art fairs and stuff. So I want it to be like that kind of hangout, a safe hangout space for people to come in and get a coffee, but not the coffee shop.
It sounds like, Martin, we really need to get our act together in terms of investment and get these places built.
Well, yeah. Well, they are in my mind.
Oh, okay. In my mind.
In my mind. Exactly.
Okay. Wonderful.
So what we're all going to do is we're all going to pile into the tractor, and we're going to
onto the tractor. You can't get into the tractor. Oh no, you can with some of these modern ones. I think our one's quite old. Does it have an in?
It is a little bit old. It doesn't have a roof, so when it rains, it is a little yeah. But
we're gonna have to perch onto a little.
Gonna have to perch. Room for a little one.
Yeah.
Right.
Sounds almost dangerous.
Back to the pub, and then we'll just kind of like we'll just have a goodbye drink in the
nice.
So pile in.
Let's go.
Oh, hang on.
Oh Jesus, we've left Paul's been left behind. Wipes. All right, there we go.
You've no idea. That's my most reoccurring dream, is being left behind. I kid you
fitting
not.
in the tractor.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Oh, poor lad.
There's usually Martin driving it.
Yeah, going, you'll never know where I'm going. Yeah, exactly.
You'll never take me alive.
I'll wave at you as I'm just driving off into the distance.
Waving, but not even looking back.
Probably run faster than the tractor, to be honest. Yeah. It's not going very fast.
I know. It is a good job that in ADHDville that the coffee shop is right next to the pub. So
yes,
handy.
So we don't have to go.
Well designed.
Go far. All right. So, you actually, this is a good point to say that that you have a podcast, so people can go and jump on that. You also do. You do like one-on-one coaching as well.
I do one-on-one coaching. Yeah, I am an ADHD sort of self-discovery and confidence coach for those of us out there who are late diagnosed and struggling to sort of breathe, I think, under the weight of all that information, particularly for I've actually got a book coming out. I'm gonna plug that. I'll plug my book.
I was gonna plug that after this.
Okay.
So
it plays nicely together, in so much as that, like, first year, as you know yourself, that first of year, 18 months post-diagnosis can be really foggy in terms of like trying to work through all those different bits and pieces of information that come up and all the things that you learn about yourself and how do you apply that to your life and who are you under the mask and all of that jazz. That is what I support people to figure out through my coaching.
Oh, so there you go. And you have a book coming out.
Do have a book coming out, yes.
Isn't it in October, I think, isn't it?
It is in October, yeah. So it's the 28th of October, so it still feels pleasantly far into the distance at the moment in March. But yeah, that is going to be a guide that I have a working title that I'm not sharing at this moment in time because it's still probably going to change. But it is to support women in particular in that first year post-diagnosis, to get some support, because there's nothing really out there in terms of our local services here, certainly. And again, it's that community building, that sense of validation, not being alone. Other people have trod this path and I'm going to be okay. So it is to support people with that overwhelming feeling of, oh my God, what do I do now? And help them sort of feel a bit less alone.
So perhaps in October, that would be a good time to maybe come back. And we can
I'll tell you about it, because I might have decided I should have decided the title by then, hopefully.
Right.
Oh, right. Okay, the book with no name, a bit like your
my venue.
Pop-in centre. Pop-in centre with no name.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because
excellent.
Well,
we'll put your links, links of everything with your
in the show notes.
In the show notes, definitely,
and in the comments. Yeah, we shall link everything up, like
Beautiful.
Proper professional people,
proper professional podcasters.
Yes.
The 3 Ps. I did actually think
we got like 3 segues in a whole episode. That's a record.
I know. I feel kind of good about all that. I did actually think, Paul. I know this is slightly just going off a little bit, but you're saying, Jenny, that that there should be something for when you get diagnosed. There's like something there for the first year, almost like a year and a half, to kind of like help you kind of on the get you on the on ramp of your of your new diagnosis.
To get traction.
For women. I was just thinking, it's like, Paul, where's our book? Where's our book?
Exactly. Where's your International Men's Day?
Men.
Yes.
Book.
Yes.
Where? See, in my head, it would be mostly cartoons and funny little scenes and characters and graphics.
Oh, okay.
That's how I think ours would be, because I know that you would read a book thinking more like kind of written words, but I think ours would just
an interactive diary.
It would be like something that it would almost be like
reminders.
A collection of cartoons almost with like with just bits of copy around it.
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking.
It sounds like a frivolous excuse to get published.
Well,
get that written.
Yeah,
that sounds a great idea.
But every good idea starts as a joke. After 35 years of coming up with ideas, all the best ideas start as a joke.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, it sounds like a plan. It's a plan. Okay.
All right, Paul.
Yes.
All right.
All right.
It is a plan. We should do.
I know a good publisher in case you need one.
Okay. Let's put that on a post-it note.
Yeah, and that we'll sort of ignore for about 2 years.
Yes.
But
no, let's
make that happen.
Let's make it happen.
Yep.
I'm a massive believer in making things happen.
Yeah.
Right. Well, let's kind of do the. Can you do your little post bag bit?
Oh,
Mr.
hello.
T?
Yes.
Yes.
Hang on.
So
your feedback is vital to us. What beautifully, so smoothly running into this section. Your feedback is really vital to us. We clang. We read all the comments, and we might read yours out on a future podcast. Ta-da!
I think
like this one from. Have we got something in the post bag? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
this one.
I'm looking at my phone. So last week we had an interview with Vanessa, aka Wet Spaghetti. Boy, that was a ride. That was
a ride.
Oh yeah, that was
my
a bag
goodness.
Of fun. And we have one from Melly Mel X9R. Well done, Vanessa, and guys, I enjoyed your podcast. Kiss. I know.
Very nice.
And we had Alexander, who said who said a beautiful episode and wrote a very long paragraph, which is awesome. So yeah, so don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, get involved, and Paul, I haven't even told you this.
Well,
I've started a Substack. A Substack, right?
Yes.
So Substack, are you aware of Substack, Mr. T?
Not particularly,
no, Jenny.
I know of the expression, but I've never really got into it.
It's really for the written word, so it's really for like medium and long format writing, right? It's become very popular because it also has loads of other interactive bits. So what I thought was the ADHDville. It should have a newspaper. So I've invented the ADHD Times newspaper, which I'll link to onto the Substack, and that has, and I've started to write that. So that has a lot of other ADHD information and fun things going on.
Where does our lovely public find that stuff?
If you go to Substack and just look for ADHDville, we will pop up.
Okay. Oh, okay.
But
nice.
But if you want to do like so Jenny, that might be another platform. It is quite a big growing platform now. So and it's for the written word. So it feels like somewhere where you could also copy paste bits from your book, maybe build up a little bit of a following there because there's a lot of writers there, a lot of other people.
What is the point of Substack? Is there like a parallel, something similar to Substack? It's not
like
a Twitter.
Blogging?
It's not
is it like
it is.
web?
It is
like what's that called? WordPress.
It is like WordPress. It's a little bit like when blogging started up back in the 90s.
Yes.
But yeah, so it's more like it's much more longer format.
Okay, the long form.
Although I did write about 1,000 words, so it's not that long. But yeah, it's another interesting place to hang out.
Nice.
Oh, Paul's dying.
Oh okay, no.
We are now down to me being the host of the podcast. Wait, he's alive.
I got a Substack. It was a Substack stuck in my throat.
Oh boy! All right.
Boy.
Well, I am going to hit the outro button, Mr. T.
Yes.
And we're gonna rock it towards the end.
Okay.
Where's the button? There it is. Right. So that just leaves it to me to clang into saying ADHDville is delivered fresh every Tuesday to all purveyors of fine podcasts. Please subscribe to the pod and rate us most magnificent, and feel free to comment in the comments. And you can also see us. But wait, there's more. That's what I'm supposed to say. You can see our beautiful beautiful faces, all ours, all three of our beautiful faces.
All three of us.
On the YouTubes, and we're also on TikTok as well. And if you want to, pick up a quill, and you can email us at ADHDville@gmail.com. But in the meantime, be fucking kind to yourself.
And I beseech you, fellow ADHDers, know thyself. Sons of the hounds, come hither and get the flesh.
And it just remains to me goodbye to Jenny. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you guys.
Total
Loved it.
pleasure.
That was a
Total
lovely
pleasure.
conversation. In fact, if
Really
I just
enjoyed
had,
it.
if I'd had a cup of tea and a couple of biscuits and maybe a scone,
Oh.
I think that would have just
Yes.
rounded it out really nicely.
Yeah. Or
Very
a
much.
cheese platter.
There, says the mayor. That's that.